RiRi left in tears after Rocky's Valentine's $99 surprise. A fictional love story, Chapter 1, The Quiet Before the Storm. Valentine's Day in Los Angeles usually shimmered with excess. Roses taller than doorways, diamond necklaces delivered in velvet trays, candlelit rooftops glowing over the skyline. But inside Rihanna's home, the morning felt strangely calm. Too calm. She padded barefoot across the marble floor, coffee in hand, oversized sweater slipping off one shoulder. Outside, the garden was still. No delivery trucks, no assistants rushing around, no helicopters hovering overhead like paparazzi vultures. Rocky hadn't said a word. Not the night before. Not that morning. Not even a teasing hint, and that alone made her suspicious. Rocky wasn't quiet. He was dramatic, playful, chaotic, romantic in a way that felt like a performance art piece. So the silence? It meant something. She picked up her phone. No messages. Just one unread text from him sent at 6:02 a.m. Be ready at 7. Wear something warm. Trust me. She frowned. Warm? In L.A.? Boy better not be taking me camping, she muttered. Chapter 2. The Ride. At exactly 7, a matte black SUV pulled into the driveway. No driver she recognized, no security convoy, just one vehicle. Rocky stepped out, all black outfit, long coat, diamond chains catching the morning light. But what struck her most was the look on his face. He wasn't smiling. He looked emotional. That alone made her nervous. Good morning, beautiful, he said softly. Why you like you about to confess something? She replied, narrowing her eyes. He laughed, but it was tight. Come on, we gotta go. No flowers, no speech, no dramatic violin intro. Trust the process, Rai. She studied him for a long moment, then slid into the car. As the city blurred past, she kept watching him. He held her hand the whole time. Didn't let go once. Chapter 3. The Airport. When the SUV turned toward a private terminal, she sat up. Rocky? He just smiled. Inside the hangar stood a jet, but not just any jet. It wasn't chartered, it wasn't rented. Her breath caught. The plane's tail carried a custom insignia, a small embroidered crown, and underneath it a simple word. Robin, her real name. She turned to him slowly. You didn't. He swallowed. I did. Rocky? It's yours. She stared at the aircraft, speechless. Happy Valentine's Day. Chapter 4. The real surprise. Inside the jet, everything was designed for her. Muted earth tones, music studio built into the back, a beauty lab space, a nursery corner, even a wall displaying framed photos of her life, childhood in Barbados, early music days, tours, fashion shows, motherhood. Her voice came out in a whisper. How much did you spend? He hesitated. She squinted. Rocky. About 90. She blinked. 90 what? Million. Silence filled the cabin. She didn't scream, didn't gasp, didn't move. Instead, she sat down slowly, then looked at him with eyes already shining. You are insane. I know. You didn't have to do this. I wanted to. Rocky, he sat beside her, suddenly vulnerable. I know we got everything already. Houses, brands, money, awards. But I wanted to give you something that wasn't just luxury. He nodded toward the jet windows. I wanted to give you freedom. Chapter 5. The moment she broke. He continued quietly. You always moving for work, touring, flying overnight, dragging yourself through airports, security, schedules. He took her hand. I wanted you to have a space that moves with you. Somewhere you can write music, bring the kids, rest, disappear, be you. His voice shook slightly. I wanted you to never feel like the world owns your time. That's when the tears started. Not dramatic, not loud. Just silent drops sliding down her cheeks. She tried to speak but couldn't, because it wasn't the jet. It was the thought, the understanding. The fact that he'd listened to every complaint she'd ever made about exhaustion, privacy, pressure, motherhood, and career. She leaned into him, crying into his coat. You didn't have to do all this, she whispered. I wanted to show you, he said, voice low, that you're still the greatest thing that ever happened to a. Chapter 6. The Hidden Final Gift. As she wiped her eyes, he reached into his pocket. Okay, last thing, she groaned. Rocky, if you pull out a diamond the size of a golf ball, I'm leaving. He laughed. Nah, nothing like that. He handed her a small envelope. Inside was a document. She frowned as she read, then froze. It wasn't jewelry. It wasn't property. It was a foundation in her name. A global fund supporting Caribbean education, music programs, and maternal health clinics, fully financed. She looked up at him, stunned. I know you, he said softly. You don't cry over money. You cry over impact. That did it. She burst into tears again. this time full-on, uncontrollable, laughing through sobs, crying. You trying to kill me on Valentine's Day? He pulled her into a hug. Nah, just trying to love you properly. Chapter 7. The Flight. As the jet lifted into the clouds, Rihanna curled against him, still emotional but smiling now. Where are we going? She asked. Barbados first, he said. Her eyes lit up. And after that? Wherever you want. She looked out the window, then back at him. You know this is crazy, right? Yeah. You know I love you, right? Yeah. She leaned over and kissed him slowly. Good, she murmured, because now you gotta top this next year. He laughed. Next year I'm just writing a card. Epilogue. Why she really cried later, people would assume she cried because of the money, because of the jet, because of the headlines, because of the extravagance. But that wasn't it. She cried because he saw her. Not the icon, not the billionaire, not the superstar. Just the girl who worked too hard, loved deeply, and needed someone to build her a place in the sky where she could breathe. And for Rihanna, that was worth more than $90 million. RiRi left in tears after A$AP Rocky's Valentine's $90 million surprise, a fictional story. The February air in Los Angeles carried a rare chill, the kind that made the city feel softer, quieter, almost like it was holding its breath. Inside the glass-walled hilltop mansion overlooking the ocean, Rihanna stood barefoot on polished marble floors, wrapped in a silk robe, watching the sunrise smear pink across the horizon. Valentine's Day had never been a huge deal for her. Not because she didn't believe in love, but because love in her world usually came with flashing cameras, headlines, speculation, and 1,000 opinions. Still, something felt different that morning. Rocky had been acting mysterious. He disappeared the night before with nothing but a grin and a cryptic, "Trust me, Ree, tomorrow gonna be unforgettable." She'd rolled her eyes at the time. But now, as she sipped her coffee and noticed the house strangely empty of staff, security, and even Rocky himself, a small knot of curiosity tightened in her chest. Then her phone buzzed. A single message. Look outside. The first surprise. At first, she thought it was a joke. Then she stepped onto the balcony. Below her, stretching down the long private drive, was a sea of roses. Not bouquets. A literal river of deep red roses arranged in sweeping patterns that led toward the front gate, like a crimson carpet. Hidden speakers played a soft instrumental version of one of her earliest songs, the kind fans cried to in their bedrooms years ago. She laughed under her breath. Okay, dramatic, she whispered. Another text arrived. Rocky, follow the roses. Wear something warm. She shook her head, smiling, and went inside to change. By the time she reached the driveway, a sleek black vintage Rolls-Royce waited with the door open. No driver, just a note on the seat. For the Queen. Trust the route. She slid in, amused and slightly suspicious. The GPS was already programmed. Destination, private airfield, 12 minutes. The ride was quiet, almost surreal. The city still felt asleep, and her mind kept jumping between excitement and disbelief. What are you up to, Rakeem? She murmured. When the gates of the airfield opened, she finally felt her pulse quicken. Because, parked in the middle of the runway, was a private jet painted matte ivory with subtle gold lettering on the side. RF, her initials. The sky surprise. Inside the jet, the cabin had been transformed. No standard seating. Instead, it looked like a floating memory museum. Walls lined with framed photos, her first studio session, her first world tour, moments with her family, candid shots of her laughing with Rocky, ultrasound photos of their children, screens looping silent home videos. In the center stood a long table set for breakfast, and at the end of it, Rocky, wearing a cream-colored coat, hands stuffed nervously in his pockets, smile soft instead of flashy. Morning, beautiful. She just stared at him. Boy, what is this? He walked toward her slowly. Just something light. He joked, she laughed and shoved his shoulder. You flew me to a whole jet museum and calling it light? He took her hands. Nah, this just the beginning. The reveal. After breakfast, he led her toward the rear of the plane. There, behind a velvet curtain, was a large digital display. He pressed a button. The screen lit up with architectural renderings. A massive building, glass and sunlight, gardens, performance spaces, recording studios, classrooms, medical facilities. She frowned. What is this? He swallowed. That's the Clara Lionel Center. She blinked, her grandmother's name. He continued quietly. A global creative and medical foundation campus. Free arts education. Free music studios, women's health programs, housing support, all in one place. She stared at the screen. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You invested in this? He shook his head. Not invested. He clicked again. The final slide appeared. Funded. Built. Yours. She froze. How much did this cost? He hesitated. 90. Her brow furrowed. 90 what? He exhaled softly. Million. The silence. For a long moment she didn't react, didn't speak, didn't move, just looked at the screen, then at him. Then back at the screen. You're joking. I'm not. You spent $90 million on a Valentine's gift? It ain't a gift, he said gently. It's a promise. Her eyes began to glisten. You always talk about building something that lasts longer than music, longer than fashion, longer than us even. He stepped closer. So I built it. Her lip trembled. Rocky. He took her face in his hands. You gave the world everything. I just wanted to give you something back that nobody can take from you. That's when the tears came. Not dramatic sobbing, not celebrity crying, just quiet, unstoppable tears sliding down her cheeks. She leaned into his chest. You're insane, she whispered. He laughed softly. Yeah, but I'm yours. The final surprise. The plane landed an hour later. When the doors opened, she gasped, because they weren't in LA, they were in Barbados. And in the distance, on a hill overlooking the ocean, stood the first completed wing of the center. Sunlight hit the glass, making it glow like something alive. A small crowd waited outside, local kids, artists, nurses, teachers. As she stepped onto the runway, one little girl ran forward and handed her a handmade card. Inside, written in careful pencil, "Thank you for building our future." Rihanna pressed the card to her chest. Her shoulders shook. Rocky slipped an arm around her. Happy Valentine's Day, Ri. She turned, wiping her cheeks, and laughed through tears. Next year, just buy me chocolates. He grinned. Too late, already got plans, she groaned. Oh Lord, I'm in trouble.